How to sink enemy ships efficiently and perhaps also cheaply was a perennial problem of the German Navy during World War II. Its surface fleet was small compared with that of the Royal Navy and US Navy. Most of its big warships were, like the Bismarck in 1941, sunk at sea by British forces early in the war or bottled up in Norwegian fjords like the Tirpitz until sunk or disabled by Allied aircraft. The U-boat fleet, the most effective arm of the Kriegsmarine, had held sway over the Atlantic until 1943, when improved Allied anti-submarine technology and the effective use of aircraft and aircraft carriers caused U-boat losses to rise dramatically. In response, the Germans tried to bridge the gap between expectation and actual performance by pushing forward with midget submarines and electro-boat technology. The former, an attempt to use very small and cheap submarines to replace the role of large, expensive, and heavily crewed normal U-boats, while achieving the same result, the sinking of Allied merchant ships and naval escorts. But the many designs were all failures to one degree or another, hastily designed and rushed into production during the final 2 years of the war. The Seehund, Bibers, and Marders scored some successes, but the overall effect on the war was negligible. The Germans did have some success with E-boats, or what they called S for Schnellboats, motor torpedo boats named for their very high speeds and daring attacks on coastal convoys in the North Sea of Britain's east coast. Could other forms of surface craft prove effective as well, asked German designers. During the First World War, the Imperial German Navy had used explosive motorboats on the Flanders coast, operating using 16-mile-long remote-control cables from a land station. The system was, to say the least, unreliable. The German Army's Special Commando Unit, Brandenburg Regiment 800, developed a new version of the explosive motorboat early in World War II. But the Kriegsmarine developed an improved, more seaworthy version called the Linzer in German, in singular, and the Linzen in plural. Around the same time, Germany's ally, Italy, had developed their own attack force using a similar craft and made the first attacks. Earlier on in the war, the Italians had employed very fast speedboats against the British in the Mediterranean. What the Italians termed the MT were small explosive motorboats with an outboard motor. The entire engine and propeller could be pivoted sideways to allow the boat to pass over anti-torpedo nets and other floating defense booms before launching an attack. The 95 horsepower Alfa Romeo engine meant a top speed of 33 knots. The pilot would steer the boat towards its target, jump overboard, and the boat would ram the enemy ship, a 330-kilo explosive charge inside the bow detonating. On the 25th of March 1941, Italian MT boats had attacked British ships in Suda Bay, Crete. The British heavy cruiser HMS York was struck twice, causing extensive damage and flooding, and the tanker Pericles actually sank. The York was later scuttled before the Germans took the island, a significant loss for the Royal Navy. The German Linzer were small radio-controlled wooden shells, 6 meters or around 19 feet long and powered by a Ford V8 engine producing 95 horsepower. A 480-kilo explosive charge was fitted aft behind the UKW radio receiver, which used sound signals to control the Linzer and guide it to the target. The Linzer's steering gear was an ultra-shortwave device fitted to the German Army's Goliath remote-controlled explosive mini-tank used to knock out bunkers and enemy armoured vehicles. Problems with the type were numerous, chiefly a requirement that it be used at night to maintain the element of surprise, and the boat's short range of around 8 miles at full speed, which required the boat to be towed to a launching point close to the target area. The Linzer flotilla was organized as a number of Rotten or sub-units, each made up of a command vessel and 2 explosive motorboats. 4 Rotten was called a Gruppe, and 4 Gruppe a flotilla. So a flotilla had a total of 16 control boats and 32 Linzer explosive boats at its disposal. Each Gruppen would make its own way to the target area, the captain of the command boat selecting the targets. Each Rotter, one command vessel and 2 Linzer, would lay off the target at about 2 to 3 miles distance. The command boat would signal to begin, and the 2 Linzer move forward with pilots aboard until quite close to the target, whereupon they would suddenly lay on power and roar forwards. The pilots in each boat, dressed in life jackets, rubber immersion suits and paratrooper helmets, would switch on the boat's radio receiver, allowing the command vessel to control the boat from then on in, and then dive overboard to await rescue by the command vessel. The command vessel controllers had special joysticks to control the black-painted Linzer once they were running automatically, and a pair of lights were fitted to the boats, red on the bow and green in the stern. If the red light was above the green light, the controller knew that the Linzer was running straight. At impact, the Linzer was crushed, the explosive charge designed to sink below the enemy ship and detonate beneath the hull. The command vessel would then pick up the 2 Linzer pilots and escape under cover of a smokescreen, heading home for tea and iron crosses. So how effective were the Linzer in action? The answer is not very. The first disaster occurred on the night of the 25th to 26th of June 1944, when 8 command boats and 23 Linzer were towed by R boats, a type of minesweeper, to the Seine Bay. One Linzer blew up accidentally, sinking 2 of the command boats and an R boat. Rough seas sank all the other Linzer. 2 further half-hearted attempts were made at operations in June 1944. In July, new vessels and recruits arrived to ensure the Linzer could get back into action alongside the midget submarines attacking Allied ships off the Normandy coast. There were now 16 command boats and 32 Linzer available. On the night of the 2nd to 3rd of August 1944, a big attack was planned on Allied shipping off Normandy. 58 Marder midget submarines and 48 Linzer attacked. 41 of the Marder pilots were killed in action. At least 14 Linzer and command boats were lost, though the Royal Navy claimed at least 32 sunk or destroyed. In return, the Linzer sank 2 vessels. LCG 764, a Royal Navy landing craft gun vessel, was struck by a Linzer after sinking 2 others that attacked, and a small tanker was also sunk. But operations on this night decimated the Linzer flotilla. What was left of the flotilla conducted an attack on the 8th to 9th of August, 12 command boats and 16 Linzer. They attempted to intercept shipping off Courseulles-sur-Mer, but without any success. Only 8 of the command boats returning. In late August 1944, all remaining small naval units, including mini-submarines and human torpedoes, were withdrawn from the Normandy battle. The next battleground for the Linzer was the Scheldt estuary, trying to prevent the Allies from shipping supplies to Antwerp to support the advance on Germany itself, and also running supplies to trapped German garrisons on the North Sea coast. 60 Linzer were involved in an operation on the 5th of October 1944 to run supplies to the besieged German garrison at Dunkirk. Only 26 made it. Another attempt was made on the 22nd of October. This time 14 Linzer were sunk and 14 returned. Further attempts were made, incurring great losses to the Linzer flotilla in men and boats. Linzer were then gathered at Den Helder, Scheveningen and Hellevoetsluis to attack the Scheldt estuary and Allied shipping traffic to Antwerp. On the 21st of November, a group of Linzer attacked the Allied-occupied port of Moerdijk, damaging port facilities but no ships. On the 5th of December, 12 Linzer were lost without any successes, and another mission in bad weather on the 17th of December also ended in failure. So it went on through December. Linzer missions resulted in lost boats and crews for absolutely no successes. At year's end 1944, the Kriegsmarine had lost a staggering 115 Linzer. In January and February 1945 were no better. On the 11th to 12th of March, another large-scale attack was mounted by 27 Linzer. 15 Biber submarines, and 14 Molch human torpedoes. Another failure with 16 Linzer lost. At the end of April, the entire Scheldt area had fallen to British and Canadian forces. The last Linzer bases were Scheveningen and Hellevoetsluis, where 51 boats remained operational. They surrendered to British forces on the 8th of May 1945. Whichever way you look at it, the German explosive motorboat program was a hopeless failure, using up men and materials for no results. It is a wonder that the powers that be persisted with such a pointless program. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also check out my new audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. Details below. You can also help support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details again in the description box.